Welcome to Yeshiva Daf. We're holding in Menachos Daf Mei, starting Daf Dalim with base in the Mishnah. Look at the Mishnah. Haparim ve'elim ve'akvosim eino me'akvim zeh. What we're talking about? We're talking about we have korbanos that you have to bring par ve'ayil keves, and that's something which applies to many of the moyadim. When you have to bring all the different korbanos, if you brought one or the other, it's okay. It doesn't matter of each other. If they have many bulls but they don't have wine, meaning if I have a choice to either bring one bull with wine or multiple bulls without wine, better to bring one bull with wine than multiple bulls without wine. And we'll see in the Gemara the source of that machlekes. Says the Gemara, "Hani porim v'kvasim deich." What are we talking about? What's exactly the case of porim v'kvasim? Where is the case that we have these animals together? We talk about this the sukkahs when we know you have all these animals. So they go kimishpat kimishpatim k'tibur. It says mishpatim, which means it has to be exactly as written. You can't change it. It's me'akif. Elo the Rosh Chodesh ve'atzeres the chumash of kudim. Right? In Elamah, we're talking about the Rosh Chodesh, and it says the written and Chumash Kudim, which means Chumash Bamidbar. So he says the Gemara of Yom Dalef, Elim Deich. Which Elim we're talking about? Idi Inu Dano. If you talk about the ones in Bamidbar, the Ailu. In Chumash Bamidbar, it's mentioned to bring only one item. I can read the Losh of the Pasuk. This is a Pasuk in the middle perk of Chet Pasuk, Chavol Chav Zayin. So, B'yoyim Bikurim Ba'akrivchem Mincha Chadash L'Hashem V'shvo Yisachem Nika Kodesh Yeh Lachem Kol Meleches Avoid Lo Yisasu. So you have to, it says don't do Avoido. V'yikraftem Oylo L'Reach L'Chorach L'Hashem. What are you going to bring to the korban? Parim B'Boker Shnayim Ayil Echad Shvo Kvasim B'Shonos. How many ayilim you bring? One item. So I can't say the alien in Akvim Zedze because I bring only one. So obviously I don't have to bring more. Right? It says only one. So the Gemara, it's only one. Hello, that's Teres Kohanim. Hello, I talk about the pasuk in Teres Kohanim. It says over there in Vayikru. It says Vikraftim Alechishas Kvosim Tmim Neshonu Parben Bokor Echod ve'elim shnayim. There it says two elim. It says two elim. How avoyak sibu. There it says shnayim you or lo Hashem. It says Lashon Havaya. So you know what are we talking about? If we talk about the ones in the elim that are mentioned, Chush Bamidbar, there it says only one eye. There's no ikuf. Hell, I talk about the ones that talk about Chush Vayikra. We'll see in a moment what it is. So there it says you need to have both. So what loyal that says to us crime. We're talking about Shavuos in what says in Sefer Vayikra. Ve'achikomer loyal in the Torah's Qur'anim me'akvel elayil lechumash kudim. For the higher the chumash kudim me'akvel elayil the Torah's Qur'anim. Meaning you have to bring both. We have to both. Why? And here you have to come and understand the different parshas. The parsha of Chumash Bamidbar, Parshas Pinchas. What's written in Parshas Pinchas? All the Musafim. Korban Musaf. Korban Musaf that comes. So Korban Musaf that you have in the Korban Musaf, you have one ayin. The Korbanos in Vayikra, Parshas Emor, is not Korban Musaf. That's Korban Ayoyim. It's the Korban that you're bringing for the day itself. Which, without going into too many details about that, it comes with Korban Atomid, which means you come with the Atomid, you bring Korban Ayoyim, Chayvas Ayoyim, and then you have Musafim, which is like an additional Korban. There's two separate Korbanos. So the Korbanos that you bring in Chayvas Ayoyim, that's when you have to bring two Ayim. And the Korban you have to bring for Musaf is only one Ayim. So that's what it means, Ein Akvim Zedzeh, which means you must bring the two for the morning, for the Chayvas Ayoyim. You must, and of course for Musaf you have to bring one. But they're not me'akiv each other. You can bring the two in the morning without bringing the one in the afternoon. You can bring the one in the afternoon without bringing the two in the morning. Said the Gemara, Laparim, what about Parim? They are filu adadi lo me'akve. So according to that, it becomes something inconsistent. Because by parim, we don't have any equal. It doesn't say yiyu. So the bulls, it means each one of the bulls, you could bring each one of them, right? Because, so what it says over there, parim v'koshnayim, shiva kavasim, the Mishnah says, doesn't say any reason to differentiate. It means either one is good enough. And the Mishnah itself brought one example that if you could bring a par with an Isachi, bring only that. So when it says bulls, it means, even though it says many bulls, it means either one is enough. But when it says ayil, a ram, not either one is enough. Either the morning or the afternoon, call it the morning, afternoon, Yechezkel or musaf are enough. But you have to bring the whole thing together. So ayil and par is different. So the you're correct. Tani mila means tani. So it depends. When I'm talking about parim or kvasim, none of them is ma'akev. You can bring only one. By Eilim, in Musaf, you have to, in Yechezkel, you must bring both. If you're missing one, you can't bring the other. But if you bring both, you don't have to bring the one in Musaf, and vice versa. If you bring the one in Musaf, you don't have to bring the one of the Yechezkel. So there is and by Eilim, you do have something which is ma'akev, but not everything. And then, Parim and Kvasim, nothing is ma'akev. Here's now the Gemara Dash. It says, Uvayoyim achodesh, par ben bokor. Okay. Uvayoyim achodesh, par ben bokor, tomim v'shisha kvasim, v'ayil tomimim yu. That's a pasuk in Sefer Yechezkel. Says that what's going to be? We're talking about the Pashup Shad. We'll see in a moment why we say Pashup Shad. Yeah, we're talking about Lost Sidlovi. Yechezkel Novi is talking about when they're going to build Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. So we're talking about the Korbanos they're going to bring. Yechezkel was misnabe about the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. So it says over there that you bring in Yom HaChodesh, Rosh Chodesh, Par ben Boker Tomim, Shisha Kvasim, Ve'ayil Tmim Yu. So we're Par Matamullah, right? It says Par singular. Fishim Abatoy Porim, because in the Torah Gabesh Chodesh it says Porim Bri Boker Shnayim. How do I know the Rosh Chodesh can bring one instead of two? That's why Yechezkel Novi says par. Shisha kvasim atamulayma, because in the Torah it says Shiva kvasim. How many kvasim you have to have in the Rosh Chodesh? 7. Yechezkel Novi says only 6. What does it mean? Fish kvasim Shiva. How do you know if you don't have 7, you can bring less? You can bring 6. Tamulayma Shisha. Uminayin shiv lo yimotzo shisho yovi chamisho yovi arba yovi shloisho yovi shnayim afilu echad. How do you know that even one keves you can bring, one sheep? Talmud lo yimar v'lakvosiv kasher tosig yodoi. Another pasuk in Yechezkel. Kasher tos yodoi, whatever you're able to bring. Machad echtivochi shisha kvosiv lamali. That's why it's a 6. Say 1. Say 1. The kamadiv shala do imagine. So we're saying another chiddush. You have to bring 7. You can't bring 7 and say, you know what? I can't bring anywhere 7. Let me just bring 1. No. Bring as much as you can. You can bring 6, bring 6. You can't bring 5, but bring whatever you can. Says the Gemara, how do you know the Eilim are me'akev? Because it says there, because it says, v'ayil tmimim yiyu. So the ayil, it is me'akev. In other words, that, as Rashi explains, once you have it, you must bring it. You don't have to bring, if you don't have, you can bring only 1. You can bring only 2. If you have it, you have to bring all of it. Can't say, you know what, forget about it, just going to bring only 1 or 2. You have to bring whatever you have to bring it. Says the Gemara, it tells you another shot, maybe it's going to tell you, not like we saw in the Mishnah, if you don't have enough to buy animals and wine. You can either choose one animal and wine or all animals. So what to say? You should always back me said you should bring as many animals as you can, more than wine.
You said 4 it's better you mean
the Shimon holds that, so you bring Chacham argue. Right. Says the Gemara, that's now that we brought the drasha of the pasuk in Yechezkel, the more it continues on with all the pasukim in Yechezkel. The first day of the Chodesh, Tika Par ben Boker Tomi Vechat Vechitos Hamikdash, and you give Mechat the Mikdash. Right? So he says the Gemara, Chatos Oilohi. It says Chiteso Chatos. It's not a Chatos oil. We don't know what this means. He says you bring the par in Rosh Chodesh, and it says Lo Shachatas, it's not a Chatas oil. Says the Gemara, you know what it is? They brought Miluim. Miluim, where you bring a par for a Chatas. Not because
the word is not Chatas.
It says Chiteso.
It means something else. It's not
but it's a losh of chatos.
It's not referring to the carbon though.
Right.
Now what does it mean?
Right. If you look at Rashi says chatos b'yu ma'iksi v'chiteis to mashu chatos. Ha'oy lo havu porin lo shchedish. So chiteis is the verb of the chatos. So the Gemara says it was miluim. Miluim was when they built the Beis Hamikdash. So they built the Mishkan. The first karbonos they brought. There they brought a par lechatos. So that's over here, you have bar lechatos. Now the Shita points out over here, we're not talking about in time of Ezra. Time of Ezra, they didn't do that. We're talking about there was Roy to be a time of Ezra. It says, and this is, the Shita here is one source for it, the Ramchal speaks about it, it really is supposed to be only two Batim English. Beis Hamikdash Rishon and Beis Hamikdash Achron. But they were not Zoich and Beis Hamikdash Sheni to get to the level they're supposed to get to. The Gemara says, as the Losh of the Gemara says, they should have, they were right to have Nisim by the time of Ezra, like it was the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. But they were not Loi Zoichet, not everybody came, it didn't work out as needed. So immediately they lost the opportunity. So immediately they came to the time of Yechezkel, between the Shlishi. But why it says Ezra? Because they had the opportunity to do it in the time of Ezra.
As far as the Beis Hamikdash Sheni was only because Klal Yisrael was survived the Galus that one.
I don't know, that could be another Yisrael. But what it says, it's like, and the Ramchal says that Beis Hamikdash Shalmalo, you have only Beis Hamikdash Rishon and Beis Hamikdash Sheni, Achron. You don't have the Sheni Shlishi. Say what Tanya Miachi Abiyudoi Mer Pashul Yoti the Dorsho. Similarly, he says, I don't know the Pshat. Moshe says there was Miluim, and that's what we're talking about Yechezkel. Thank you, you made me, you calmed me down. Says the Gemara, it says the veil treifo from the birds, from the animal, Kohanim should not eat. So the Kohanim will do Israel are going to eat in the veil of treifo. Kohanim should eat in the veil of treifo. What does Yechezkel say? Says the Gemara, I don't know what it means. The Kohanim don't eat the veil of treifo. If you know about Kohanim, it's Tzichlei. Sakadai Techabino, you'll be storing Miliko the Gabayu to store now in the veil of a treifo. I would say because Kohanim could have Miliko, which means they can kill the bird in a way that makes it nevelo by Yisrael. So maybe everything is mutter by them. So Chiddush is the Shirot also. Of course by Yisrael is also. The Chiddush is by Kohanim. Another drasha. V'chen ta'asa b'shiva l'chodesh mi'ishoige u'mipethi v'chipartem es habayis. Right. So b'shiva. The pasuk is v'chipartem es habayis. Right. It says over there you have we'll do in the 7th of the month. You will do something and you'll mechaper es habayis. What does it mean? The 7th of the month. What we bring the 7th of the month? So Shiva, so what does it talk about? So here, Omar B'Yochanan, Elu Shiva Shvatim Shechotu, Rabbi Shein Ruba Shekol. If you remember that, the Seches Horbias. If you have the most Shvatim in Am Yisrael, they were Choyte, meaning they made the Psak Halacha and they followed the Psak. So Choydish B'chit Shavam Uchele Mutar, meaning they said Halacha against the Torah. They made a mistake and they acted on the mistake. So that's the idea of the Shoygig Gepeti. So it says Shoygig. They did it, not only Paskat. So here's the Inyani that we saw in Seches Horiyas. You have to have a majority. You have to have based in Paskat Halacha. you have to have people transgressing the Meiser. You have to all agree. That's what he said in this passage. Have to mean 7. Not 7 in the month. 7 Shvatim. So the more now, just ending this discussing Sefer Yechezkel. Humav Yidom Harav Zocher Oiso Haish L'Toiv V'Chanino Ben Chizki Yoshmoy Shemalei Unignas Sefer Yechezkel. Without him, Sefer Yechezkel would be Nignas. Should Dvar Sois in the Torah. There are things in the Sefer Yechezkel against the Torah. Maybe some of them was mentioned over here. Ma'aso Ela Shlosh Mot Garbi Shemen. He brought up 300 measurements of oil for candles. Yosha Ba'aliyah V'Dosh said in the Aliyah and the Dash of Yechezkel until he answered all the questions. Says the Gemara, Omar Shimon Imayule and Parim Rubin. So Rav Shimon said that better to bring with Nesachim than to bring one with Nesachim than many Parim. Says the Gemara, Torah Bonon Ve'iful Apar Ve'iful Ayil Yaseh Mincho V'Lakfosim Kasher Tosik Yodoi V'Shemin Hin Le'ifo. That's as well Pasuk in Yechezkel. So it says you're bringing a measure, Eiful Apar, Eiful Ayil, and you do whatever you can, and Shemin. It's not the same measurement. It says, Mash over here, you give the par, you give the ayah the same amount. Hello, Shimoylim, Parim, Rubin, Vlaylim, Nesachim, Yaviu Parkab and Koso, Yaviu Kolom, Beloy Nesachim. Meaning, what it says over here, Eifo, doesn't mean a certain measurement. It means a measurement. Eifo means whatever the measurement is. Even though the oil, or the Nesachim for the par, is a different size of the Nesachim for the aisle. Different measurement. Rashi says the par is shloisha esroinim and the aisle shnei esroinim. But Eifah means a measurement. The measurement of the par, the measurement of the aisle. Meaning is always try to have the measurement. Always try to have the wine coming with the animal. So you're doing the Eifah, make sure it's there. You have the Elim, you don't have the measurement in the wine. So that's how Shimon dashes this passage to tell you that you're required to bring as much as you can to try to bring the wine. Better to bring the wine than to bring more animals. So the Mishnah. So now we're focusing on Shavuos. And on Shavuos you have to bring Shtei Alechem, and there's Korbanos you have to bring as well. So all these Korbanos, Par, Eilim, Kvasim, Eseir, they're non-me'akev alechem. You can bring the bread without them. Ve'lo alechem me'aklom. You can bring the bread there without the bread. Halechem me'akev akvasim, ve'in akvasim me'akev alechem divrei Rabbi Akiva. Now, when you bring the Shtei Alechem, you bring with it 2 sheep. That 2 shepseles, 2 kvasim. So you should know that the Shtei Kvasim of Shlomim that come with the par, they come with the lechem, you must have both. You must have the animal and you must have the bread together. That's Rabbi Akiva. Oh, that's not true. Sorry, the way Rabbi Akiva said is I said it wrong. That the lechem, you can't bring the kvasim without the bread, but you can bring the bread without the kvasim. So Rabbi Akiva. Shimon Amasa says, "Loiki, ela kvasim me'akiv salechem. You can't bring the bread without the sheep. V'alechem inoy me'akiv as a kvasim. You can bring the sheep without the bread." The opposite shita. Why? Sheken matzinu k'sher Yisrael b'midbar b'im shana. During the 40 years in the midbar, karvu kvasim beloy lechem. You brought the sheep and you did not bring the bread. The same way in the midbar you can bring the sheep without the bread, so you can bring the sheep without the bread. Right? What's the reason? Rashi says, why didn't you bring the lechem? Because they brought it only from Eretz Yisrael. The lechem has to come from the grain growing in Eretz Yisrael, and here they weren't in Eretz Yisrael yet. That's how Rashi brings here. Toyses has a different gear than Rashi. And he brings a Rashi that they didn't have bread. The only thing they had was man. They didn't have bread. So Toyes asks, it's not true. They did buy bread from the goyim coming around it. That's Toyes asks. So So he says brings. No, you have to bring from Eretz Yisrael, which is the Chorah Mashmos of our Rashi. You can't bring it before you go to Eretz Yisrael. So different drushes why you know that he didn't have the bread. He didn't have bread in the midbar. Says the Gemara, Omar Shimon, I look at the bananas. I agree with bananas. The kvasim can come without the bread. Not because of his reasoning. His reasoning was because you bring the kvasim in the midbar without the bread. That's not true. Whatever is written in Chumash Bamidbar, that they did bring in the midbar. Whatever is written in Toras Kohanim, which is Vayikra, le'en kar b'midbar. It's an easy way to remember this. What's Chumash of Kudim? What's Chumash of Kudim? Chumash Bamidbar. So in the midbar, Chumash Bamidbar, they brought in the midbar. Whatever is written in Chumash Bamidbar, which means Parshas Pinchas, you have all the Kabbalas written in Parshas Bamidbar, that they brought in the midbar. But they didn't bring what's brought in Chumash Vayikra. Understand why? What's the opinion? What's the Inyanim? If you don't bring Vayikra, is only when you're settled in Eretz Yisrael. But midbar is with the midbar. In other words, you're saying that they brought kvasim in the midbar. That's not true, because the kvasim is written in Chumash Vayikra. So they didn't bring that kvasim in that lechem. So why do I tell you that you could bring the sheep without the bread? Not because of the midbar. They didn't bring it. So I'll tell you why I hold that the kvasim, the shechita of the sheep, makes the bread mutter. So the bread depends on the sheep. The sheep doesn't have bread in the bread. So that's why I can't bring bread without sheep, but I can bring sheep without bread. We'll see the Gemara is going to explain the machlekes and the shitas. But the Maaseh, one thing we come out from here, did they bring in the midbar the shtei kvasim? That depends on the machlekes. Was anything in Vayikra came on doing the midbar or not? No, the lechem everybody agrees they didn't bring. Shtei lechem for sure they didn't bring. The kvasim is a machlekes because that was written in Chumash Vayikra. Says the Gemara, meaning that you actually have to come with the bread. Chayva with the lechem. Kratim al lechem with the lechem. Shivas kosi tvimim. Then it says 7 tvimim on its own. Abishayin lechem. Just bring shekvus tvimim. So he says in kevato l'em al lechem. Meaning, when they were in the midbar, they did not have kvasim, which is the last sheet of the Mishnah. So as long as they didn't have lechem, which is only when you come to Eretz Yisrael, they also didn't have kvasim. Well, we have 2 psukim, like we said before. We have the psukim in Parshas Emor, we have the psukim in Parshas Pinchas. In Parshas Emor it says, "V'kravtem al lechem shnivas kvasit v'im lishonu par ben boker echad v'al shtayim yor l'Hashem." And then it says, "V'asisim seya ezim chadachatos u'shnei kvasim lishonu l'zevach shlavim." So it says in the end of the Karbonis of Vayikra, shnei kvasim. In Chumash Bamidbar it says, "U'biyar mekibur," and we said before. So it says over there, Shiva kvasim neshon. Again, it mentions kvasim. So he says, so the Shiva kvasim, in the series of the Karbonis that you have in Chumash Vayikra, it says Shiva kvasim. It says Shtei kvasim in the end. But it says in the beginning, and it says Shivas Kvasim, right? So let's remember this. In Chumash Vayikra it says 7 Kvasim, 1 par, and 2 elim. 7 Kvasim, 1 par, 2 elim. In Chumash Bamidbar it says you have 2 parim, 1 ayil, the opposite of Vayikra. Vayikra have 2 elim, 1 par. You have 2 parim, 1 ayil, and 7 Kvasim. So the Akiva is the 7 kvasim mentioned by Vayikra, the same 7 kvasim mentioned by Bamidbar. So says the Gemara, יכול להם כבוסים אמור כאן וכבוסים אמור מחוש בקודים. Or like a shotay, magia la parim ve'elim einohen. My parim ve'elim clearly is not. Because here it says 2 parim, here it says 1 par. Here it says 1 ayel, it says 2 elim. It's not the same animals. In other words, the one chush vayikro, it's part of the bread, meaning part of the korbanos hayayim. The one chush b'midbar is the musaf. Nitzava shavur chush b'kudim kar b'midbar. Mashahor to eskranim le kar b'midbar. So whatever is the chush b'kudim is in the midbar, because that is that nothing to do with the bread. And whatever is written in Chumash Vayikra doesn't cover midbar, because it depends on the bread, and there's no bread in the midbar. Says the Gemara of Yumo, maybe Parim ve'elim lav inu akvasim inu ninu. Well, 1 second. Maybe the Parim, the elim and Parim were different because here it's 2, here is 1. But maybe the kvasim are the same. We will know, because we find that they're different. It's a different series of korbanos. 7 and 7. But it's 2 series of 7. Meaning, in Shavuos, in Chayvas Hayayim, you're going to bring 1 pie, 2 elim, 7 kvasim. When you bring Musaf, you bring 2 pie and 1 ayel and 7 kvasim. Says the Gemara, pie ve'elim ma'idishtanu. Who said they're different? Because in Vayikra it says 1 and 2, and here it says 2 and 1. You buy par, you buy shte par, and it gives you option. So you can either do 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. So he says, no, look at this order in the Psukim. In Chumash Vayikra it says par ben boker echad v'she'elim shtayim. What goes first? The par. In Chumash Bamidbar it says par. Actually, it says parim b'ikbar shtayim ayel echad. So what does it mean? Ishtari sidra? No, the kvasim shtayim kvasim. Sorry, the parim and stay the order. I made a mistake. The kvasim shtayim kvasim when it is. In the Vayikra it says par elim. It says shivas kvasim par and elim. So the kvasim come first, and then there's par and elim. In Chumash Bamidbar it says parim ayil and then shivas kvasim. So the order of the korban is a little different. So if you see it's a whole different thing. So the first ones belong to Chayvas Hayayim with the bread, and the other ones belong to the Musaf. Okay, says the Gemara. Continue reading the Mishnah. The lech is back to the 1 man dohamar. My Tabi de Akiva, what's the reason of your Akiva? The first man dohamar. Kama yiyu mitiyen. Meaning, according to Akiva, you must bring the bread. Why? Because it says in the pasuk it says, "V'ini fokein ha'isov alechem b'kurin duval Hashem, hashtei kvasim kodesh yiyu la'Hashem l'koyin." Speaking about the bread, it says yiyu, and it says legabe and it says in the pasuk, "V'shoseh legabe ha'omer, t'viu lechem tuval shtayim she'yasreinim, soilis tihiyeno, ma'alol lechem afkan lechem." You look from there. Here needs to be bread, so here has to be bread as well. Says the Gemara. You learned EU from a different pasuk. The pasuk that says regarding Shavuot itself, that it says over there, Losha pasuk. It says EU over there. Talk about the animals, not about the bread. Why don't you learn from the bread that says Bayomer? No, because it says EU and EU. I want to learn from you, not you from Tieno. So this we bring the classic case of the source. Tanya Bishwal says we learn Zer Shava from the 2 times that the Kohen comes to check the tzaras. One it says Shava Kohen, one says Ba Kohen. What mean the Kohen come to check it? But it's 2 different words. I don't care if it's 2 different words. It's the same concept. So Kohen's going to have the same word with a little different letters. So I can learn it's all the same words. Says the Gemara, well, that's when you don't have anything else similar. I don't have EU for EU. When I have the exact same thing, Yun and Tiyano, so then I have to come and compare the two. So if I have to choose between Yu and Yu, and between Yu and Tiyano, I choose Yu and Yu. For Akiva Nami, the other few Miyos, I give this one for that Rasha. So Donim Dovar, Mishamaton Lakoyen, Midovar, Shematon Lakoyen. You learn from the bread that goes to the Kohen to the Oimer that goes to the Kohen. The other ones are Karbonis. Karbonis, they go on the Mizbech. Maybe the Machlekes is in the Pasuk itself. It says, Kodesh Iyu Lashem Lakoyen. That's what it says in the first Iyu that we mentioned. It says goes to the Kohen. What goes to the Kohen? The bread, not the sheep. Menachos b'chtiv Kodesh Iyu Lakoyen. Kodesh Iyu Lashem Lakoyen. Goes to Hashem, and then it goes to the Kohen. Meaning it's Hashem partially. Have you heard Kvasim, which is a Shlomim, partially goes to the Kohen, partially goes to Hashem. That's right. It's Hashem and the Kohen. La Hashem la Kohen ksiv. Anything the Kohen gets comes from Hashem. So the lechem we talk about belongs to Hashem and it gives to the Kohen. This goes on to discuss here. Can he use it in the Kaddish Eisha? What it means it goes to Hashem. But the point is, what we're talking about? Kodesh Hashem LaKohen. Are we talking about the bread, which is completely the Kohen? It says La Hashem, that Hashem gave it to the Kohen. Or we talk about the Karbonas, which is partially Hashem, partially to the Kohen. So Machlek at the dash of the pasuk, I'm going to tell you what is me'akev. Is it the bread or it is the kvasim? So we'll stop over here. Continue from here based on tomorrow night.